police officers, Mumbai gangsters, the Mumbai underbelly as a whole. Knows it better than most people, has played a part in several, writings on Mumbai, from Vikram Chandra's Sacred Games to Misha Glenny's Mafia, one of my all-time favorites a couple of years ago when it came out as a series. Welcome, Hussain.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I have one of my favorite stars, Emraan Hashmi, whom I've liked ever since he burst onto the screen in Footpath, playing a gangster. What else? And he's gone on to play a number of fascinating roles, always sort of on the edge of, good, badness, and you never quite know what to expect from Emraan in any role, which is, I think, what makes him such an exciting and unpredictable actor. And also very, very articulate in how he, talks about the process of acting as well, without making too much of a big deal of it. So welcome, Emraan. Thank you for joining
us. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. Thank you.
Great. And, you two know each other. So I'll begin by talking about, I think, one of the first encounters that you had, right? Where, Hussain, you were interviewing Emraan when he played a crime reporter in Rush. Am I right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
You want to talk a little about that experience?
I think first I'll ask Emraan to start and then I'll take over.
Sure. Imran, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, it was actually one of the first meetings with Hussain Bhai. And it was a film way back, I think, in 2009.
Yeah.
And it before the release, we felt we could do something very interesting with the space of media and just have a different peg to the way we were promoting the film. So we had Hussain Bhai come over and interview me live. And I was playing a journalist in the film. I was playing a news anchor. So it was a very, very interesting conversation. Obviously, it's almost like 10, 11 years back. I don't really know the details. I don't remember the details.
Yeah.
But I think that's when, a certain friendship, a certain relationship started off from there with Hussain Bhai. And through the years, we've grown closer. In 2014 was when I think there was, his bit on Kiss of Life when he came and met me in my makeup van. And I remember I'd come back from Toronto, my son had fallen ill.
Right.
And he nudged me to kind of write this book.
Oh.
It was under the Blue Salt imprint, and he made me meet his protege, Bilal. So that was a wonderful experience, very cathartic.
Right.
And that's been one of those fine landmark experiences of mine, which was led by him, kind of fathered by him, that book. And, I always say all the films on one side and that one book, there was one very, very kind of cathartic, very emotional ride for me. So thanks to him.
Yeah, it was very moving to read as well, Emraan. I think I read it twice, and I remember interviewing you immediately after it was released. And it was really written so simply but so movingly that I think it reached out to a lot of parents. Even if their children hadn't fallen ill, it made them sort of reaffirm their commitment to parenting. So I think that is really lovely. Hussain, you want to talk about what prompted you to sort of push Emraan into telling his own story?
Whenever I saw his movies, I realized that the intensity of the character came across very well on the screen.
Right.
And as a journalist, we've always been trained to notice beyond the obvious, whatever is not apparent. So I thought the man has a very sensitive heart and he has gone through a huge trauma in the past. If only I can convince him to tell his story, which he was reluctant initially, but I thought it could be inspiring for so many parents to go through this kind of trial and tribulation. It will be really helpful. And you will not believe that, to my surprise, the way Emraan narrated the whole story, you cannot believe that he is an actor and not a storyteller or not a scriptwriter. The way he started right in the operation theater and then the whole pains, and then his own life backstory about how his career kind of graph moved towards such huge success. And the end part was a surprising thing. It brought tears to my eyes, though I was so connected to the book with every chapter and paragraph. The way he described that how Ayan participated in the race, the final race. A child who has just recovered from this kind of surgery and trauma and illness participates in the race and wins. And Imran concluded that race is such a fantastic way that what matters is to be part of the race, not essentially you have to always win it. Fantastic moral. So I just fell in love with his storytelling techniques, and as we said that the friendship has already began with Rush, his movie about being a crime journalist.
Great. Yes, I do remember that end. It was really very moving. Imran, I want to ask you whether you talked at length to Hussain when you did Once Upon a Time in Mumbai, because you were playing a young Dawood. How much of an input did you acquire from Hussain's writings, from speaking to people like him and around him during that era? Because that's one of your iconic roles.
Well, I didn't actually speak to him personally at that point of time, but obviously there are a lot of influences from his writing that had preceded that film at that point of time. Maybe Black Friday. That was, I think that had a kind of profound impact on the way I kind of play the character. At the same time, the film was a bit of a departure from, the certain realism and grittiness that Hussain Bhai brings to his characters in his books. I think there was a certain school in, like how gangsters have been portrayed. It could be the RGB, Ram Kumar Verma school. It was more real, more gritty. Here we were trying to be more flamboyant, a bit larger than life.
It was almost glamorous.
Glamorous and also a little filmy. So I think I could get away with a lot more stuff than other actors would in this scenario. But yes, his writings were tremendous input, because I just wanted to know where this man came from, just to understand that. I mean, my first memories of Dawood were, in school when the Mumbai riots happened. And I remember I was like, 8, 9 years old back then. And you couldn't really comprehend what was happening at that point of time when I was a child. And someone who would be responsible for something like that was kind of unnerving. It was something that I had to tap back to that experience as a child. So all these influences helped, I think, in Once Upon a Time Mumbai. And what was very different about the film was that it changed the key of the way people saw gangster films. There was, Kashyap's, viewpoint in Black Friday that was taken from his book, which was fantastic. But this was a completely different ballgame. It kind of tapped into the Bachchan era, 70s, the dialogue bazi, the flashy cars, the bell bottoms, brought into two beautiful love stories. But yes, but he is the man that kind of, I guess in a way influenced everyone as far as writing goes for their films, because he has documented everything. And the source material is something you can trust. At the same time, his books bring in a certain entertainment quotient. I think it's a good blend of these two things, because it's very difficult to first get things factual right, document them, at the same time give them a nice feel as far as story goes, and make that work. So yeah, in that sense, he's been a huge input.
Yeah, as you said, he's in fact perhaps the first information report for every crime that happens in Mumbai. He's the author of that. Hussain, just a little about Once Upon a Time in Mumbai, because we are also actually, it's been 10 years since that movie. It was quite iconic in the way it also portrayed two eras, the ending of the Haji Mastan era and the beginning of Dawood's era. Not everything about it was accurate though, right?
No, it was a very romanticized version of gangsters, actually. So it was very far from reality. But the main central characters of Haji Mastan and Dawood, you were playing the protagonist.
Right.
So where I have always said that Imran, I mean, when I met him, I told him that his Dawood was by far the best so far in whichever movies Dawood has been portrayed.
Right.
So the certain seething rebelliousness that you see in the character, the rakishness, how the man is willing to just explode at the slightest moment, but he has a very unforgiving nature. He always carries that vindictiveness in him. These are the qualities which is not very easy for someone to portray, especially if the actor has been a romantic hero who has been known for his serial kissing image.
Yeah.
He brings about gangsters so much alive, and you tend to believe that this is how Dawood may be or would be, or the way he is romancing that girl, and the way he, takes revenge on his enemies. And I think Imran was simply iconic in that movie.
Right.
Well, actually, this was a huge thing when I was planning on signing on with this for this project to play the role, and a lot of people told me that you shouldn't touch it with a barge pole because the character is so dark. There was a film before that where I did play a grey character, but again there was like kind of a lover boy mold that was placed, which was Jannat. And that did phenomenally well.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been hated for characters before in the past, like a character like Gangster, the film Gangster.
Yeah.
A lot of women hated me for that character. I mean,
although you're a good guy, but
the good guy, the romantic guy, who suddenly in the end you find it's a complete 360-degree turnaround, and you come to know that he's the undercover cop who had kind of planned everything to get to the gangster. So, a lot of people told me not to do the film, but then I got a sense of how Milan and Rajat were trying to pitch this film. It was colorful, it was, kind of filmy. We had to portray it in a very understated kind of way, both Ajay and me, because the kind of dialogues that were written by Rajat, they were so flowery and so over the top, and fantastic dialogues, by the way.
I know,
if he had overdone it, if he had gone a decibel higher than what was expected, I think every scene would have fallen flat.
Yeah.
And it was a good way of kind of changing a certain image of mine. Intimacy and me have always gone. We were strange bedfellows for the longest time, 10 years before that. But I was very happy that Milan and Ekta and the entire team were willing to take this hit with me.
Right. And what was going through your mind when you were playing the young Dawood? Was there ever a moment where you said, this, I can't do this. It's too much. It's too dark.
Oh, every day. I mean, the drama that was around that film, the drama that was on screen and the drama that was off screen, it somewhere syncs together. I mean, that film got shelved twice.
Okay.
It was just after Jannat, I heard the script. Rajat and Milan came to my house and I gave it the okay. But then there was 6 months of writing and pre-production in which it was shelved twice. There were some production issues, and then we shot the first schedule. Then again, we heard that probably the film might be shelved. But then finally it got made. And when it got made, when we were airborne with the promos, this was, I think, a month before we were going to release the film. The makers realized that there was a big problem in the second half. And we had to shoot almost 20% of the film. And
what was the problem?
The makers, I didn't see the film. This was obviously, we were told, Ekta picked up the phone, Milan picked up the phone and told us that, you guys have to stop shooting, doing whatever you are doing, and you have to give us dates because we're airborne and we have to kind of piece these things together. Apparently, the second half was a little bit dull and drab. It wasn't working. And there's always that curse that, the dreaded second half of a Hindi film. I mean, you can get away with the first half, but you can't get away with an average second half. It has to satiate the audience. It has to fulfill the audience. They have to come out feeling entertained. And that was not happening. So we shot almost 15-20%. Everyone's dates were taken. Ajay, Kangana, me, Prachi. And we shot it. I don't know how we did it, but we shot it really fast. And I remember seeing the trial show and I picked up the phone and told Ekta. Ekta she was scared. She didn't want to see the film. And she wanted to know everyone's reaction. I was like, Ekta, you have a big hit on your hands. Because I saw the film and we were all kind of detached in a way because it was almost a year and a half of production.
Right.
They were closer. They had lost kind of objectivity. But when we saw it, we were very pleased.
Yeah, and I think the box office and critical appreciation, both,
Yeah.
you got both for it. Hussain, I wanted to ask you, the connection between Bollywood and the Mafia has been quite intense over the years. There's always been this fascination of people within the industry for gangsters and gangsters for people within the industry. There have been so many cases. Uh, what is it? What is so compelling about that attraction?
See, actually, for some reason, actually, there are several of them, but why exactly Bollywood is so obsessed with bhais or mafia is a very strange story.
Yeah.
Initially, because mafia funded Bollywood movies and there was no organized funding for the movies, so there was so much of Benami funding that happened for movies. So they were besotted and beholden with bhais at that time because they were accountable to them for all those movie making business. Then Dubai was one of the main capitals where all the film stars used to descend for various kinds of shows and other things. Now, if you go to Dubai, Dubai and Dawood are like synonymous. You have to go and pay obeisance to Dawood. So I've written their names. I've written how some top film personalities always went to Dawood in Dubai. And they took the entire star cast, including heroines, and they all have to be part of the party which Dawood was throwing for them.
Right.
So this fascination, this connection, this dependence on each other, this liking for each other, kind of became so integral to the existence of each other that they became inseparable after a point of time. It was not until this film Chori Chori Chupke Chupke that they could cut the umbilical cord from the mafia.
Right. What happened with Chori Chori Chupke Chupke? I know, of course, of Bharat Shah and the whole case, but what was it about it that broke?
It was a big banner movie. It was a big banner movie having a top line star cast.
Salman
And
Khan and
yeah.
Zinta.
And it came, apparently the producer was a little known guy, and they did not know that he was fronting for actually Chota Shakil. And when things came out due to wiretap surveillance and all those conversations, that crime branch realized that actually this was being funded by mafia, and all these stars were threatened to act in this movie. They had got threat calls to be part of this movie, and they can't refuse this guy Nazim Rizvi. And that's how the whole story was unearthed. And then Mumbai Crime Branch started summoning stars. They were questioned for their antecedents. Their links were verified. They were checked. They were interrogated. Statements were taken. So such a fear kind of was enforced in the film industry after that they decided it's better safe than to be sorry. And then they started cutting off all the ties and links with the mafia.
Right. Has that also seen a change in the way movies have been plotted and movies are now portraying the gangster?
No, I see that gangster is still a hero. We always see that gangster is romanticized, glamorized, and is put on a pedestal. And they always give him a reason for becoming a criminal, and they always justify his taking to crime. So I don't understand it why he should be supported or glorified the way all those movies do. Maybe they want to pander to the ego of the stars. Please, everyone, don't feel bad about what I'm saying here. But those are the compulsions that a film producer and studio has to go through when they are taking a star as a gangster.
It also is also when you're playing to the gallery and you're playing to the audience.
Yeah.
I think there is a kind of tried and tested blueprint.
Yeah.
And this is how the industry has been following. It's been going for the longest time. When there's a certain safety net, and you have seen a certain kind of film work.
Yeah.
Then you don't want to tinker around much with the parts of it. So I think there is justification. There is a bit of glorification, and probably also redemption somewhere down the film's storyline. I think that is what makes the film slightly more popular.
Right.
I think directors and writers feel that if you don't do these things, it won't be very palatable for the audience, and it won't be a money spinner. So that's why there's a certain frame in which you have to make these films to make them more viable for the box office.
For instance, your role in Avarapan of a gangster, there's a there's a reason for why he's turned into a gangster.
Yes.
Are you saying that that's always at the back of the filmmaker's mind, that there has to be a reason?
I think, you have to make, at least this has been in the past, things are slowly changing. I'm sure with OTT coming on the bandwagon, things will change in a huge way. But I think it's to make the audience slightly more, make the characters a little more sympathetic, for the audience to be invested in someone, to empathize with a certain character. You have to give that part of the story. Otherwise, they don't really buy in. They don't really vouch for their hero, so to speak.
Yeah.
And like Hussain sir also said that, you won't get too many leading men play those kind of characters. I'm one of the few, I think, actors that would actually do something like that. I mean, if you would take a grey character to most of the actors, 90% of them, they would all say no. Because they all want to play the hero that comes and saves the day.
Yeah.
That, is squeaky clean. You can't fault the hero in any way. Or there's some kind of redemption in the story. So I think it's just part of the entire ecosystem.
No, I remember a famous incident. I mean, once I went to a director friend of mine who was adapting my book in a movie. I told him that, why are you making the hero look like a good Samaritan? He's a killer. For God's sake, he's a bloodthirsty, violent man. And you are making a Robin Hood, a good Samaritan philanthropist type? He said, Hussain, you don't know. You have written a book. My 50 crore is riding on this.
Exactly.
If you show him like a Dracula devil guy, my film will bomb and flop.
Yeah.
Please let me do. I know what I'm doing here.
Right.
Because of which, the experience I had, I mean, in recent times, I mean, if you've seen in a show like Narcos,
Yeah.
or you've seen any of Martin Scorsese's films, they don't shy away from actually showing that character is all black.
Exactly.
He does demonic things, Pablo Escobar.
Yeah.
There was no way of kind of making him, there's no justification for anything. But through the show, weirdly, I was kind of vouching for him, but I was like, okay, he's doing all these bad things. But then the writers have kind of instilled it very smartly, the kind of family values that the character has. There's some ambition and drive that we all connect to. And in that way, you kind of make that character slightly more sympathetic. You kind of empathize with the character in a way, on his predicament, that he is doing what he is doing because he's kind of product of his environment, and this is all that he knows. But he's a bad guy. You would want him to die in the end. But at the same time, deep down inside somewhere, you're like, okay, we know where he's coming from, and you kind of like him too.
Right.
So we haven't really tapped that just as yet with our films. I just hope that changes.
Yeah, but things have changed, haven't they, Imran? From the time when, you got away with playing really characters who were literally on the edge of the abyss, and who could sort of tumble over and become really evil. We seem to now be in an era of biopics of, great soldiers, good police officers. You yourself are playing one, I think, in Mumbai Saga. You're not playing the Don for a change. You're playing the...
Yeah, I'm playing the police officer.
Yeah. So do you think it's because society has changed? Because are we more comfortable with ourselves, or do we want to see only heroes? What has changed?
I think there is a lot of hero worshipping in our country.
Yeah.
I think there is a market for a certain kind of film that works, and it has worked in the past, and these films have been money spinners. And like I said, that they don't want to really change something that's working fine. No one wants to take the first step and change things around.
Although we have seen that such films do well. Your films in the 2000s did extremely, extremely well.
Yes, I mean, I'm talking about the majority of the industry,
right,
and the way it's been pitched. I mean, even in the way the kind of biopics are made.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to play up the gallery to a certain point. I think with, like I said, with OTT, things are changing, and they will progressively change, and you will see a very different kind, like the heroes and characters have always evolved through the times. I think now we are grappling with a very different kind of hero. We don't know what it would be after this era. I don't know what will come out of this. When we cross this pandemic, what will be the kind of film that will be more palatable for the audience? What will be that hero that they want to watch?
Right.
That is a big question mark at the moment.
It could well be the kind of hero that Hussain has written, Endgame, right? I see Imran playing Vikrant Singh very well. What do you think?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I see him in a lot of my characters actually, and I even proposed to him to portray one of my characters if possible sometime in future. So he's good as Vikrant. I mean, muscular, strong, brave, intense.
Yeah, we were just talking about
I
his
don't say that
muscularity.
the last time we cracked a joke about it, I actually ended up doing it.
What was this?
It was doing Part of Blood actually.
Part of Blood, yeah. Yeah.
It was under his imprint. It was written by
Bilal Siddiqui,
Bilal
the
Siddiqui, yeah.
co-writer.
Yeah.
and the press journal in the conference just asked, do you think you would like to play a character like this? And I just joked and said that only if the director adds a kiss in the film. But fast forward 5 years after that, 4 years after that, I ended up doing the Netflix show.
Right.
But director did add a kiss which he had refused actually.
Which I was resisting.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but
I feel that he'll be very good as Vikrant Singh. What are the qualities that make him an excellent and committed police officer as well, Hussain? What would be those
as I started that, I find Imran to be very sensitive, very intense. I realized that the man is very dedicated and devoted, even in his real life. So to portray those kind of qualities on screen is not very different for him, or it won't be acting at all. It would be his real self. And my hero Vikrant Singh is a man who is loyal to his mentor, who is very dedicated to his cause, and is also sensitive at the same time that he should not, just because he's going after terror kind of sleeper cells, he should not alienate a whole community. Vikrant Singh himself is a Hindu guy, but he's very concerned about upsetting Muslims during the quest for busting a terror cell. So those are the qualities which we have always seen Imran projecting in the movie, that intense character, the man who is within control and he's not giving out much, but at the same time he's totally devoted to the mission that he has taken on himself. And in Mumbai Saga also he's playing an encounter specialist. So I guess that you are going to see a lot of that thing in this movie.
where John Abraham is the gangster. That's a switch, isn't it? It's usually the
when I heard the script, when Sanjay Gupta was narrating the script, I was like, okay, the gangster, and halfway through the narration, he said, okay, you're the cop. I was like, okay, this is intriguing because I've never played a cop like this. I've never played a cop actually. I've always, I'm the face for everything immoral and unethical in life and in people, and those kind of personality traits.
It's a discount gangster, CBI officer, that is.
Yeah, but he is no less than a gangster. I mean, he is very fierce. It's like one of those get a thief to catch a thief kind of guy. And he wouldn't, he feels fair means if possible, unfair means if necessary.
Right.
He wants to put a bullet in this guy. And very interesting character. Very interesting character. I mean, after Once Upon a Time in Mumbai, I've heard a lot of scripts, and this is what happens. Film does well. A lot of people come to you for a certain kind of film and replicate it. But nothing came close to that. I think this is a very special film. I've always wanted to be part of a Sanjay Gupta film. So it was a no-brainer for me.
Imran, what was your experience playing Kabir Anand, playing a part in a streaming series? How was that different? How is the rhythm different from a movie and what you've done so far?
It's not very different, but at the same time, you have to be in for the long haul. A certain dedication is extremely important because it's like literature. I mean, there's a lot of material there. It's not like a 2-hour film.
Right.
So obviously the commitment for dates and shoots becomes a lot more. And for the adaptation of Part of Blood to the screen for Netflix was a huge task because we shot in 6 different locations.
Right.
We shot in Leh Ladakh when it was like, the high altitude. Hussain Bhai also came there.
Oh, really?
Problem there with the altitude.
There I was shooting, yeah.
But that having those things put aside, I think it's pretty. It's pretty much the same. But you have to understand that it's a very different key.
Yeah.
For an OTT platform.
Right.
But how was it playing in RW operative?
Sorry?
How was it playing RW operative? A washed up guy, an officer who's carrying a cross on his shoulder.
Pretty good.
Different experience, a different role.
Pretty good. I've always wanted to play a spy, and I always say this, that in a Hindi film construct, you'll have a spy sing 4 songs.
Yeah.
So then goes the entire seriousness.
Yeah.
The gravitas of the character.
Yeah.
So here, when I was playing Kabir Anand, I think the angst-ridden character, the way it was written, and to kind of put that up on screen, a man who's kind of being chased by these demons from his past, he wants to kind of wash that away. He's looking for these answers. He's a very driven character. He's a very ambitious character. And I'm always for these active characters. I don't really go for the kind of passive plot. I mean, he's devious in his own ways. He wants to accomplish what he wants to accomplish. Again, fair means if necessary, unfair means impossible. But he wants to do it. He wants to get to his goal. And I found that very, very intriguing. And it was a great journey. I mean, 7 episodes, a lot of shoots, but I think it was all worth it.
What was the reaction you had from your fans? You have some crazy fans as well.
Tremendous reaction. And also tapped into another sphere of people who had never watched my films.
Right.
I think the Netflix audience now, I mean, it is a mixed bag, but there's also a certain audience that probably doesn't watch too many Hindi films. A certain affluent audience that hasn't watched my films. And I got a sense when, I used to go out and interact with people, when you go out to restaurants, when you go out places, there's a certain audience that has kind of never really come up to me. And that was because of Bar of Blood. And the main thing was that when are you making the second season? Because it ends at such a high point.
Exactly.
People don't expect that. So I won't put all the spoilers here. But it ends at a high point that people, even right now, the tweets and the messages that I get, when is it going under production? And people are like, oh God, now there's this pandemic.
Yeah.
So we have to probably wait for some more time.
But you do have second season, don't you?
It is.
Yeah.
We just have to figure out when we're going to shoot, when we get out of this. Because again, it's an ambitious shoot, lots of locations, so we have to plan it well.
I just want to ask you, Emraan, since we talked a little just before the interview, how has it been as an actor sitting through these 3 months, 4 months, looking at all the stories around you as well? I think Bollywood has never been so much in the news as it is now. You see this, the outsider-insider debate. You see actors rating fellow actors as A-list, B-grade, whatever. How do you view it? It's a strange time, isn't it?
If COVID wasn't strange enough, I think the vibe outside, and you get a sense of it from social media, I think it's extremely toxic. And it's just not needed in a time like this. I wouldn't want to comment too much about the case and Sushant, but just the fact that, your heart goes out to the family at this point of time. And you need to allow them to kind of heal through this. It's become a bit of a circus on social media. I don't want to mince my words in this. And it's something I stay away from. I mean, there are a lot of people who have asked me to kind of comment on things like nepotism and stuff. And I said, I've already put that out. I've already given a comment about it. I mean, it's been fueled and people are kind of, they have their egos at play. People are kind of bashing each other. They've had probably things from the past and they're kind of settling those scores. It seems like that. And I think it's extremely toxic. I think, I hope it ends soon. I mean, but every day you see it's kind of fueled more and more. And I don't know when there's any end line to this.
A lot of the players are people you've worked with or people, you've worked with and are related to. Does that bother you? Say a Kangana is involved or Mahesh Bhatt?
I don't really know the point of it all. I really don't understand the point of it all. It's, like I said, it's extremely toxic. They are people I work with, and uh, I don't know. I just wouldn't want to comment beyond a point because it's. Sometimes I feel I should go off social media. I just get on and I start seeing every day. You get up to a fresh, and also the media. I mean, yes, there are great journalists there and they're doing the job, but it's become this space where you don't know if it's actually journalism in some places or it's entertainment. There's a very thin line that's kind of blurred, and you don't know what's true and what's not true. I mean, there are stories that come out one day that are shot down the next day, and they're like, okay, I didn't say this. So how did that quote go out there? So I think it's time to kind of insulate yourself. Otherwise, one might go completely mad.
How are you staying sane?
How am I staying sane?
Yeah.
I work out. I do my reading. I don't read too much of the news. And I tell my wife at home, I'm like, first it was COVID. And we were constantly reading about COVID, and it went on. And this kind of has its effect on your psyche. And now it's the case that's been going on. I'm like, I just stay away from it as much as possible because it's just a kind of cesspool that you don't want to get dragged into. So, yeah, watch movies, do your thing, read scripts. Don't engage in this too much. I try not to engage in it too much.
Hussain, what have you been doing? Have you written another bestseller while we were all reading Endgame?
Actually, I mean, that is, I do for a living. I write. So
Yeah.
now with advent of OTT, I've been also looking at certain scripts and trying to crack certain scripts into season mode. So it's books, writing my own books, then mentoring the books which my authors do in imprint, and then writing scripts. So it's writing something which keeps me very busy.
Yeah.
I don't get time to watch movies, or since I'm not at all on social media, so I don't even know what exactly is happening there and how crazy the whole atmosphere is.
That's the best thing on social media.
So when I see what Emraan is going through, what Emraan is talking about, I feel very fortunate to be away and aloof from all that.
Right.
Yeah.
Hussain, I also wanted to ask you how is the international mafia, since you played quite a big role in Misha's research as well for Mafia. How has the international mafia changed, and where is India's role in it now? It's almost become like arms plus drugs plus a global trade.
See, whole problem here is that in India, we are so obsessed with Dawood Ibrahim and his clan and other gangsters who are actually pygmies when we compare them to international syndicates.
Absolutely.
In Russia, actually, or in most of the other countries, you will see that the mafia pulls strings. They are the one who are controlling the government.
Yeah.
And here, even if our mafia can be friends with one MLA or one MP, they make such a big hoo-ha about it. And they don't know that mafia is virtually running the government by proxy in so many other places. I mean, in Europe, in CIS countries, at so many other places. And our mafia is a very small, minuscule part of this syndicate that's happening in the world. What are we dealing with? Maybe we're dealing with drugs, maybe extortion, a bit of gun running. But their mafia, they are into totally different. They are running banks. They are actually ruling the currency. They are doing the gold market. Their business is far higher and a different scale than what we are. But since we live in a small kind of atmosphere and we are obsessed thinking that these are biggest demons that we know, or Dawood Ibrahim is the biggest gangster in the world, so we kind of tend to exaggerate our own reality, which is actually very limited and small when we compare it to the international scenario. I wish, our guys can read more and they can know more about the triads, about the Russian mafia, about the European Corsicans, and all those Italian mafias. They will know that what we are is actually very small in comparison.
And yet our mafia has also become communal, the way it's portrayed. You want to talk a little about that, the rise of...
That's one point which I keep trying to explain that through my writings and in my speeches, that our mafia is not communal. It was one MasterCard, one masterstroke that was played by one gangster, Chota Rajan, in 1994 to demarcate or to gain some sympathy. Otherwise, you see both Hindu-Muslim gangsters on each side. Dawood has Hindu gangsters in his fold and Chota Rajan has Muslim gangsters with him. If it was really communal, then those gangsters should be Hindu gang and Muslim gang. but it is a Daud gang and Chota Rajan gang. And in 1993 blast, when Chota Rajan left Daud gang, he wanted some sympathy and support from the Indian government and of course by the majority of Indians. So what do? First you call that gangster traitor. You call him Deshdrohi, and then the whole country will turn against that gangster and you will get a lot of sympathy. Which is exactly what even Ravi Puchari did afterwards.
Yeah.
Even the guys started playing the patriotic card. So now even in movies, you have a patriotic gangster and you have a traitor gangster.
Yeah.
But actually, if you look at the list of the people who are affiliated with these gangs, you will find that there's no communal element there. Both the gangs have both the people there. Muslims in Hindu gangs and Hindus in Muslim gangs.
Right.
So actually, there's no communalism here. It's only a bogey. It's only a projection that is made by these gangsters.
Right. Imran, when you look around you now, when you talk about COVID and the kind of changes that you possibly bring up in storytelling as well, what kind of stories do you think will work now?
I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just waiting for the business to open up, theaters to open up, for film shoots to start. But we don't know how that's going to happen because, there's again this, there's a pause on theaters. There's a pause on shoots at the moment because, we aren't very disciplined. We have 100 people on a film set and hygiene is not, really up to the mark.
Right.
It's something that we have to completely change and there has to be a complete overhaul of things. And if there's anything that we as an industry resist, that is change.
Yeah.
And that's what's important right now. But it'll be a struggle. I think post the lockdown opening up, I don't think there's certain frivolity in a certain cinema that won't work. We've been forced to experience something that's deeper inside.
Yeah.
Could be our health. It's fear of that for loved ones. That changes you. It's like any catastrophic event changes people. It's a war-like scenario changes people. This is unseen. I was talking to my dad the other day. Even back in the day, he's never seen something this long drawn. We're already into the 5th month of a lockdown. It's worse than a war scenario.
Yeah.
And we don't know when the no end line in sight. I think once things open up, it's a struggle. We'll know what works, what doesn't work, what kind of characters will emerge, what kind of new stories have to be told. Will it be comedy? I'm guessing it'll be comedy because people would want to feel better.
Escape.
People have been extremely morose and stressed out, probably depressed. Depression is another thing that's come to the forefront. There are so many cases right now in our country where depression has always been a stigma. You see this around that people are talking about their state right now and their mental state. And it just has deteriorated for everyone. Maybe comedy is the way. Maybe that's something that people have got to see.
You're very good at that, so that's fine.
Well, that's why I've signed on 2 comedies.
Oh, you have?
Yeah. Whenever we go on floor, it's a different experience. Anything will be out somewhere early next year. So
what's it called?
Well, untitled yet.
Okay.
Untitled yet. It's still being scripted.
Okay.
Whenever the shoots start, I first have a bunch of shoots to complete. I have Mumbai Saga to complete. We have around a week of shoot left. So once that releases and Chehre releases, then we'll go on.
You have Chehre as well. What you're playing in Chehre, and you're with Mr. Bachchan.
Yes. That's another one off my bucket list.
Yes.
And wonderful experience working with him. Great story.
Is it a thriller or?
It's a psychological thriller.
Okay.
Yeah.
The body was also quite good, and you got to play with Rishi Kapoor. I think one of his last films.
Yes.
Did you enjoy that?
Oh, I loved it. With Rishi sir, there was always this image of him, through social media, and just the way he used to his lovely flowery 11 o'clock at night tweets, and such a warm person, and such a huge loss for the industry. Such a great actor, and I felt that there's so much talent and creativity that could have come out, and a lot more films, a lot more landmark characters that he could have played. For that matter, even Irfan. Irfan. And I've worked with both, and such wonderful human beings, and such a big loss for the industry. It really is. But yeah, they will be missed.
So you think comedy could be one way that we sort of adjust to the new normal, so to speak?
Probably, and also I think with people sitting at home because they've been consuming so much of OTT platform content, their taste buds have definitely kind of in a way altered,
Right.
For the better.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they would come in the numbers to see what there was before.
Right.
Let's face it, there is a certain frivolity in our kind of cinema. There are a lot of things that we get away with, and a lot of stereotypes that we get away with. But kind of OTT is kind of smashing all of that, and it's putting out some really good content. Like I was seeing the show yesterday. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you seen Succession?
Yeah, my God.
Oh, it's a brilliant show. I just finished it 2 days back, and I'm like, what are we doing? Like, what? When you see a show like that,
Brian Cox's character.
You see a show like that, and you're like, God, I wish, we are years away from this. The kind of the writing, the kind of performances, the direction. I just hope we kind of gravitate towards that kind of cinema. It's realistic, it's gritty, it's entertaining at the same time. I just hope there's this changes for the better.
Hussain, you'll have to write those stories, so you better get ready.
I don't know, somehow I don't get kick about doing anything besides thriller, or there is something about high-end stakes and major diabolical conspiracies, plots. I mean, that's the thing which gives me the rush, that gives me the really satisfaction of doing a story. Comedy, I can't write. Love story, I can't even imagine. So, what
I've not done it for the longest time. I keep telling directors, like, I don't understand love stories.
Yeah.
Like, my wife has always told me I'm a hopeless romantic. I know I'm going to play that on screen.
No, but the way you proposed your wife and the way that love story unfolded is really different.
How did you propose to your wife, Emraan? What is this secret that we don't know?
I don't know. Like, there was no grand moment in that way, but it was just like, we've done funny things like put like a ring in a champagne glass. She almost choked on it.
God.
She almost called the whole thing off. But I was chasing her for the longest time.
I think you proposed
Things got worse with her family when I did Murder. Because my image was completely ruined there. And like, isko kaise damad, ye kaisa damad jo ghar pe aa raha hai? It's ridiculous. We can't marry into his family. We don't know how he is.
Yeah.
But then I had a lot of convincing to do, and more convincing after these films, after I had kind of established that image.
Right.
But I think I stalked her into marrying me. I pretty much stalked her. If you ask her, that's what she'd say.
Maybe something your fans should not follow, but let's leave it.
Yeah, please don't. Please, I'm the worst role model. Please don't follow me.
But Emraan, really, when you look back at your career, what gives you satisfaction?
Just being on a film set, just portraying characters, just working. It was an accident. I never wanted to be an actor, and then I realized that after the first film and seeing myself on screen, I'm like, okay, I can do this for a living. And as years went by, I got really passionate about it. I kind of learned the craft, honed skills, and it got better. It got easier. At the same time, there was a challenge when I was, stepping out of my comfort zone. Very few films allow you to step out of your comfort zone here. Again, that's another thing about Bollywood. And I hope
Shanghai, for instance, one of the finest roles, I think.
Yes. Shanghai was a film which again was a huge step out of my comfort zone. Absolutely. It was a character that I didn't completely understand. I was playing very urbanized characters before that, very cool characters before that.
Right.
There was a guy from a small town with his inferiority complex.
Right.
And I had to go through umpteen workshops and kind of mold myself into that character. And that was a tremendous experience. But I wish and hope I get to do more of the same.
Absolutely.
With a lot of films. But I think it's the scripts. It's great material. It's envisioning that material, tapping into the writer's mind, tapping into the director's mind, and then somehow struggle and put it up there. In that is a joy that I can't explain.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put that up on celluloid and make it work.
Why don't you write a book in this lockdown, Emraan? If you're at home.
No, I don't have the discipline. I used to do this way back. I used to do these morning pages where I used to get up and write down fill up 2-3 A4 size pages. And I've been trying
I've
to
been
do that.
pursuing him for the longest time. One particular book which you can do, and I don't want to,
He's been chasing me. He's been chasing me. Up, बोल दीजिए please.
Yeah.
What is
Already
that?
बोल दीजिए कौन सी किताब है वो. He's been chasing me since 4 years to write another book.
So, lick
You have to hear which book he wants you to write.
What
See,
is
I'm
it?
saying that Imran is such a lover boy, and they look at him as for a romantic images that he has portrayed,
Yeah.
and right from everything, like chasing a girl to serial kissing, everything. So I was telling him that why don't you play a love guru? These
Oh,
days
wow, that's a lovely idea.
people these days want advice, suggestions. They want that they should follow someone. Here, he's a young romantic guy, very intense lover guy who can advise them how to. Now, just like he said that how he stalked his wife, his girlfriend became his wife. How he convinced her.
I don't think that's the kind of advice that people want.
His idea of. So my whole point that he has won against all odds. He is a fantastic, perfect love guru for all those guys who are aspiring to romance or love, fall in love, and marry a girl of the dream. He's been resisting that idea for the last 4 years now.
Hussain, I will now join you in persuading Imran to do this for sure.
I'll be doing great injustice to the younger generation, Imran. I'm telling you, they can benefit with your experience, and you can really guide them and make them, follow the right way to.
You see my wife's expression. I'm thinking of writing a book called Love Guru.
She can write the foreword.
What are you going to tell them? Stop misguiding people. It's ridiculous. This is a sham.
You can be a mentor for them, and you can really tell them how to fall in love and how to ensure that you woo your girlfriend, how to court her, and how to win her heart. I think that would be a phenomenal thing to do.
She's still selling. I will think about it.
4 years, but
I might just take him up on this offer. I might just take him up on this offer.
I think it's a great idea. And on that wonderful note, I think we should end this conversation. Thank you both very much for continuing to tell your stories and for entertaining so many of us, especially during this lockdown. Once we come out of it, it'll be interesting to see what stories are being told and what stories Imran will be part of as well. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you.
Imran, and thank you, Hussain, and all the best to Endgame.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Cheers.